Black lives matter worldwide till the end of time. We rising up, can't nobody stop us. The love we got colossal. We rising up, white supremacy, your throne's about to topple. We rising up.
In 2000, about 2007, 2008, Girls for Gender Equity did a participatory action research project. And PAR is research that's done by the community for the community, where the community members are experts in asking the question that they need answered. And the question they ask is, how does sexual harassment impact you in school? And so through that work, they got to learn from their peers how sexual harassment really impacts young people in school, and in particular, a vast majority of girls and trans youth and youth with different gender identity and different sexual orientation. And they realized that it was a real problem, and it was also very much normalized, and that young people didn't have the support they needed in the school to be able to address it. They didn't even often know that it was sexual harassment, and when they did realize it was sexual harassment, then they didn't know even who to go to. So they weren't bringing it to the administrators or feeling like the administrators were answering. And even when they tried to tell their side, it was expected that they were not allowed to then retaliate, that they should have come and tell their side before they fought back. And so zero tolerance policies really impacted then how it was they were getting pushed out of school through suspension or through expulsion or through fear of even going to school. And so it was clear during that time that we were, as a nation, talking about the school to prison pipeline for Black boys and Latino boys, but absent of that conversation was how girls of color and Black girls in particular were being impacted, as well as how trans youth and non-binary youth were disappearing from school and not showing up, because not only did they face harassment from their peers, but they faced harassment from the administration. So trans youth reported that they were facing harassment by not being allowed to come to school in their full gender expression, right? So often people confuse sexual orientation and sex with gender identity. And we all know sex is what you are assigned at birth, typically male or female or intersex, based on your genitalia. And sexual orientation is then who you're attracted to, right? Whereas gender identity is interpersonal. So young people come into puberty and they come into their youth development stages and then come to recognize whether their sex and gender identity is congruent. And so as they explore their gender identity, if it is something different than what they were assigned at birth, then they're gonna explore it through social norms, by dressing the way that they feel that they can best express themselves, by talking and mannerisms and showing up to school that way. And when they show up to school that way, oftentimes the administration is not educated enough, empathetic enough, right, to understand that this young person actually needs more support and not less. And oftentimes is bias, is prejudice, and says things to the young people. Even the phrase as simple as ladies and gentlemen feels like a betrayal, because it makes them invisible as a non-binary youth who doesn't respond to ladies or gentlemen. And then when they speak out, fight back, challenge, then they're seen as the one that is not in line, and then they're disciplined. And so it doesn't make for a climate or environment where a trans or non-binary young person wants to go and learn, because oftentimes they're looking over their shoulder and can't learn and can't take in what it is that they need to. Even something as simple as having a place to go to the bathroom and not feeling harassed or being called names is a really important thing in schools. Because it's so personal, and oftentimes they haven't changed hormonally yet, they haven't had surgery yet, and they're trying to figure it out. So that's a time where they need to be supported, and they're often not.